Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fractions in the Kitchen with Chef Breuer. Today I'm making some cupcakes for my grandson. He's turning 2 and it's his birthday. And so I'm going to make some cupcakes, and of course we won't be seeing him. We'll drop them off at the door. But we're making vanilla cupcakes. And I bet you've seen lots of recipes that have fractions on them. You can see a lot of fractions written right here to talk about how much of each ingredient that we need. So it's a perfect opportunity for me to share with you some of the ways that fractions are used in cooking. It's really cool. And I remember I asked you yesterday if you could look around your house and see if you could find some things like this. And maybe you did. And I'll give you an idea to use to explore them after I show you a few things here. So the first thing that my recipe says that I'm going to need 1 1/3 cup of flour. And so in order to do that, I'm going to have to fill the 1 cup measuring cup right to the top, and then I'm going to have to get 1/3 of a cup of flour. So I'm going to go into my baking bin right now and get my flour. And what I'm doing is I'm scooping out 1 cup of flour from my baking bin. And so you can see that I have filled it to the top, and that's 1 cup of flour. So now I need to get my 1/3 cup measuring cup. And I know that it's the 1/3 measuring cup because look, it says 1/3 on it. So here's my question. If I filled this 1/3 cup and I poured it in here, and I poured it in here, how many times would I have to do that to get a full cup of flour? Let's try it. So I'm going to fill the 1/3 cup with flour, and I'm going to put it in the 1 cup measuring cup. It's not full. All right, I'm going to fill it again. I should have a spoon, boys and girls, so I'm going to need one. I don't have an assistant like Rachel Ray getting everything ready. All right, so this is 1/3. 1/3 and 1/3, that would be 2/3. Is it full? No, it's not full yet. Okay, I'm going to get another 1/3 cup of flour out of my baking bin because it's too hard to scrape out of the bowl without a spoon. So there's 1/3 cup of flour, 1/3, 1/3. All right, here we go. Doing it over a bowl so I don't make a mess. And look what happened. It's full. How many times did we need to put 1/3 of a cup in? 1, 2, 3. That's right. 3/3 is the same as 1 whole. 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 was 3/3. That's right. Okay, so that's measuring with flour. I wanted to say, when you're investigating later, that is really, really hard to get food right now. So you don't want to be messing around with food without permission from your parents. Maybe they would let you use some dried rice to practice, or that you might go outside with permission and use some sand, or you might use flour, but make sure that you don't throw it away because flour is really hard to get in the stores right now, so we don't want to be wasting. Let's see if this works with water. So I have this measuring cup full of water, and I'm going to fill this one up to the 1/2 mark. Never do this when you're really cooking in the air, because we need to measure when it's flat on the ground. I'm actually going to check that. Okay, so do you see how it's 1/2? Can you see the water's up to the 1/2 mark? So I'm going to pour that into this cup. And I'm going to put this down. And I'm going to pour another 1/2 cup in here. It's not a magic trick, it's cooking. And now I have 1/2, and I'm going to put in another 1/2. What do you think it's going to equal? Yep, 1 full cup. 1/2 plus 1/2 made 1 full cup. That's right. So it'll be really fun for you later today, if you have some things like this, to try it. So you could do 1/4 and pour it in, and 1/4 and pour it in, and see how many times it takes to fill the cup. It's really fun. Next thing, I wanted to show you something really interesting about butter. Let's see if I can move all my things so that you can see them. Okay, so where can you see? Here it is. I'm looking on the camera. Of course, I can see it myself on the table. So I was really excited to discover that in my freezer I had butter in 2 different versions. And I am going to use a whole cup of butter today. I'm going to use a half a cup of butter for the frosting and a half a cup of butter for the cupcakes. Butter is really great ingredient in baking. And that's why we don't eat very many desserts often, because there's a lot of fat in that and a lot of calories, but it's delicious. So what I have here are 2 sticks, and this makes 1 cup of butter. 1 cup of butter is here. So if I wanted to use half a cup for the cupcakes and a half a cup for the frosting, then I would use 1/2 here and 1/2 here, because there are 2 equal pieces. So that's 1 cup, 1/2 a cup, another 1/2 a cup, 1 cup. Cool, right? Right. But I also had in the freezer butter that was organized this way. So look, I'm going to put it down and separate it just a little so you can see. Do you see how many pieces there are? 4, like we folded the paper yesterday. So how many pieces altogether? 4. What would 1 piece be? 1 out of 4, 1/4. So this is 1/4 of a cup. And this is 1/4 of a cup. 1/4, 1/4. So watch this though, because it's pretty neat. If I want to use a half a cup of butter in the frosting, I can't just use this one. That's not a half a cup. That's a 1/4. So I need to think about how many 1/4ths would it take to make a half a cup. You probably know. Look, if I use 2 out of 4, 2/4ths, that'd be the same as a half. And since I need to use a whole cup today for the frosting and the cupcakes, I'm going to use 4/4ths of butter. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/4ths makes a whole. 2/4ths makes a half. Yeah, isn't that great? So I was pretty excited to see what I had for butter in my freezer so that I could share that with you. Again, talk to your parents before you take butter out of the freezer, because they might get upset with you. Butter is really hard to come by as well. All the food right now is pretty tricky to get. So remember I showed you some little spoons like this yesterday, and I said maybe you could find some? This says 1 teaspoon. It's 1 whole. It's a whole teaspoon. And this is a part of a teaspoon. It's called 1/2. There, I think I have it the right way now for you. 1/2 teaspoon. So I'm going to fill the 1/2 teaspoon with salt, and I'm going to pour it in the 1 teaspoon. How many times do you think I'll need to do that in order to get 1 full teaspoon? All right, so I'll dip into my salt. 1/2. It's not full. And another 1/2. Look, 1/2 plus 1/2 is 2 halves, which is 1 whole. Just like the butter, just like the flour. Yep. So it can be liquid or it could be solid, like butter. It could be a powder. Fractions are really cool in the kitchen. So what I thought would be good for you to do today is, if you have some of these things, you could maybe ask permission to use them in the sink, and you could mess around with how many times would I need to fill this to a half to get 1 whole? How many times do I need to fill to a third to get to 1 whole? Another thing that you can do is mix them. So I have this 1/4 container, and I could fill that with water. How many times would it take to get to 1 whole? So you could try that. And if you have some of the spoons, you could find out different things that go together as well. I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm going to get pretty busy right now baking these cupcakes and frosting. And I'll take a picture of them when they're done and let you see how they came out. Happy cooking. Happy fractions.